Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to take a look into the not-so-distant future. We're unpacking a really fascinating column by Shankar Ayar, who's mapped out the key trends, the threats, and all the paradoxes that could define our world in 2026. All right, let's get right into it. So to start, let's jump back in time, way, way back, long before any of us had a smartphone. Mark Twain wrote about this thing he called a telectroscope. And get this, he imagined it as a device that would make everything happening on the globe visible and audible to everyone. I mean, wow, he pretty much predicted the smartphone and social media, didn't he? A century early. But, for every home run prediction like Twain's, there are a whole bunch that just completely missed the mark. I mean, people seriously thought we'd be taking vacations on the moon by the year 2000, or that a new ice age was coming in the 70s. My favorite might be that people would eventually get tired of watching TV. Yeah, that really shows you just how tricky forecasting the future actually is. So that's where our guide for this journey comes in. To help us navigate what's coming next, we're turning to columnist Shankar Ayar. He's laid out this amazing framework for understanding the big forces at play as we head into 2026, and we're going to walk through his key themes. And the first major theme Ayar flags, well, it's a pretty sobering one. He calls it a world on edge. The argument he makes is that the risk of global conflict is on the rise, with tensions simmering all over the globe and, in some cases, just boiling over. He points to a few specific hotspots you've probably seen in the news. You've got U.S. operations in Venezuela, strong warnings aimed at Iran. And these things don't happen in a vacuum, right? He notes that these actions create ripple effects, with places like Taiwan and the ongoing war in Ukraine watching very closely. The idea is that these events could be creating a kind of playbook for future conflicts. And look, this isn't just a handful of isolated incidents. The column brings up the Global Peace Index, which has this absolutely staggering statistic. 78 countries are now involved in conflicts outside their own territory. That really drives home how global this instability has become. And, of course, all this conflict, it has a massive economic engine driving it. We're talking about $679 billion in annual revenue for arms manufacturers. That is a huge, huge industry that is fueled by global instability. And if that number wasn't big enough, get this. The combined market value of just the top 50 defense companies has now crossed $1.5 trillion. That shows you the immense financial structure that's built around global conflict. And all this instability, it has a direct and really messy impact on our next theme, the global economy. Okay, so let's shift gears to the economy. Because according to Ayar, things are getting, well, weird. He describes it as an economy filled with these strange paradoxes that just don't seem to follow the old rules. So here's a perfect example of what he means. Central banks like the US Fed and India's RBI have been cutting interest rates a lot. Now, usually, textbook economics says when they do that, bond yields should go down. But that's not what's happening at all. In the US, they've actually gone up, and in India, they've barely moved. It's a huge sign that something unusual is going on just beneath the surface. To really paint a picture of the situation, Ayar brings in this fantastic quote from JP Morgan Chase's Jamie Dimon. He talks about the cockroaches of risk. What a great image, right? The kind of hidden dangers that are lurking in the dark, especially in government debt and private credit, until someone flips on the lights and then suddenly they're everywhere. And you really don't have to look far to see the evidence of all this anxiety. Government borrowing is hitting record highs, and look at the prices of gold and silver. People flock to those things when they're scared, and their prices have gone through the roof. It's a very clear signal that people are nervous about where the economy is headed. All right, now let's talk about the big one, the one on everyone's mind, artificial intelligence. Ayar presents it as this true double-edged sword. You've got this massive, unbelievable optimism on one side, and the potential for huge disruption on the other. So on the one hand, the excitement is it's off the charts. Just look at a company at the heart of it all, like NVIDIA. A massive 91% of analysts are screaming buy on the stock. That shows you just how deep the belief in the AI revolution runs with investors. But, and this is a huge but, here comes the other edge of that sword. With more than $500 billion being poured into this technology, 2026 is being called the show me year. Basically, the clock is ticking. The market is saying, okay, we've seen the hype, we believe in the dream, now show us the money. And then there's the really disruptive side of things. The article lays out this very clear chain reaction, right? First, this super smart Agentic AI gets adopted everywhere. Then jobs that involve talking to people start to disappear. That leads to hiring slowing down in big sectors like IT services. And that has a ripple effect on everything: jobs, income, economic growth. It's a potential downside we just can't ignore.
So, after all that war, a weird economy, AI's promises and threats, where does this all leave us? Ayari's final section pulls everything together by looking at inequality and unpredictability. He calls it the Great Divide and the Great Unknown.
So first up, what exactly is a K-shaped economy? It's actually a really simple but powerful idea. Just think about the letter K. You've got one arm shooting up and to the right, and you've got another arm slumping down. That's the economy he's describing. One group soars while another group gets left behind or even falls. And you can literally see this K playing out in the real world. The wealth of those at the very top is just exploding upwards, while everyone else on that bottom leg is, well, they're struggling, often needing government support just to stay afloat. It's a really stark picture of a widening economic divide. And the sheer scale of that growth at the top, it's just staggering. In the year 2025 alone, the world's top 500 billionaires added $2.2 trillion to their collective wealth. To put that in perspective, that one-year gain is bigger than the entire economy of most countries on Earth. It's wild. And this brings us to Ayer's final and maybe most important warning. It's about black swans, those completely out-of-the-blue events that change everything. His point is that no matter how much we analyze trends, the future will always be shaped by things we just can't see coming. And that really is the ultimate question, isn't it? If the past can't perfectly predict the future, and we know these huge shocks to the system are inevitable, what's that next black swan hiding just around the corner? It's the big unknown hanging over everything as we look toward 2026.